Hello, knowledge seekers. In this episode of 20-Minute Books, we're diving into The Courage Habit by Kate Swoboda. This insightful book examines the significant role fear plays in our lives and introduces a compelling four-step program designed to help you become your bravest self. By embracing methodologies derived from cognitive behavioral therapy and acceptance and commitment therapy, Swoboda provides both inspiring examples and actionable advice to cultivate the courage needed for personal transformation. Kate Swoboda is not only a renowned life coach, but also the director of the Courageous Living Coach certification and the mind behind yourcourageouslife.com. Her expertise is frequently showcased in major publications like Forbes, USA Today, and Business Insider, making her a trusted voice on topics of courage and personal development. The Courage Habit is an essential read for three types of individuals: independent thinkers eager to face and overcome their fears, motivated achievers who feel stuck and want to understand the dynamics of habit formation, and sensitive individuals who aim to build more supportive and empathetic relationships. Join us as we explore how to make courage a habitual part of your life, paving the way for achieving your dreams and transforming fear into action. The Courage Habit: How to Accept Your Fears, Release the Past, and Live Your Courageous Life. Introduction. Unlock the door to courage. Imagine waking up filled with the intention to transform your daily routine, your career, or your personal relationships. Yet, despite your initial zeal, doubts and habits loom over you, making those first daunting steps feel nearly impossible. If this scenario sounds all too familiar, then you're experiencing the common challenge of breaking free from the deep-seated fears that hinder us all from achieving our true potential. According to Kate Swoboda, a seasoned life coach, fear is often the toughest obstacle blocking our path to personal growth. However, the key isn't to fight this fear head-on, as that would mean denying its existence, but to understand and work through it. This script dives into the strategies and insights from Swoboda's approach, offering you a blueprint to a braver, more fulfilling life. Through this enlightening discussion, you'll discover how envisioning your most liberated day can be the catalyst for profound life changes, the importance of disrupting the cycle known as cue routine reward to alter how you react to fear, effective techniques to address and transform the dialogue with your inner critic that may discourage you from pursuing your aspirations. Each of these points will guide you through the process of confronting and embracing your fears, ultimately paving the way for a lifestyle characterized by greater courage and determination. Join us as we explore these transformative concepts, ensuring that each step forward is taken with confidence and clarity. Part 1. Begin with understanding fear's role in shaping your life choices. Have you ever found yourself at a crossroads, feeling compelled to change something fundamental about your life, such as your career or a personal relationship, but then stepping back into the comfort of old habits? It's a common scenario that many of us encounter, and it's primarily driven by fear. Surprisingly, fear doesn't always present itself in obvious ways. Instead, it often disguises itself as practicality or doubt, influencing our decisions more than we might realize. For instance, consider the drive to switch careers, hindered by the rationalization of time and money already invested in your current path. Or the realization that a relationship isn't fulfilling, yet the idea of starting over or being alone seems overwhelmingly daunting. These decisions stir up stress and self-doubt, which are simply fear in disguise, steering us away from potentially life-altering choices. Most often, our brain plays a significant role in this process. It prefers stability and predictability over the discomfort associated with change. When faced with the unknown, the brain's default response is to trigger fear and anxiety, keeping you tethered to the familiarity of your current routine. Conversely, when you opt for the well-trodden path, your brain rewards you with a sense of ease and calm. This cycle of fear can make the prospect of genuine change seem insurmountable. Many of us attempt to overcome this through sheer willpower, telling ourselves to stay positive or to dismiss the fear outright. Strategies that unfortunately fall short of addressing the root issue. So, how do you effectively confront and harness these fears? It starts by re-evaluating your understanding of fear and recognizing its influence on your life's decisions. Instead of fighting fear or masking it with positive thoughts, the key is to embrace it. Engage openly with your fears, permit yourself to question the status quo, and explore new pathways that align more closely with your core desires. This engagement marks the first critical step in a broader, courage building practice, a precursor to a transformative process known as the courage habit. Before delving into this four-step methodology, it's essential to get comfortable with the uncomfortable and start seeing fear not as a barrier, but as a gateway to growth and fulfillment. Through this reevaluation, you prepare yourself to break free from the shackles of fear and step boldly into the life you truly desire. Part 2. Identifying your deepest desires unveils the pathway to courageous living. At the heart of the courage habit lies a transformative practice created by the author to assist individuals in honoring their true desires, facing their fears, and unlocking their most courageous selves. Importantly, the essence of this process does not involve becoming someone new, but rather realizing and releasing the potential that has always resided within you, obscured only by accumulated barriers. Initiating this transformative journey starts with clarity. Clarity about what you genuinely yearn for. A powerful exercise to aid this discovery is envisioning your liberated day. Imagine a day unshackled by fear, where each decision and action aligns with your deepest desires. Visualize from the morning to night. How does it feel to wake up? How do you engage with the world around you? And how do you feel as you settle back at the end of the day? In crafting your liberated day, focus less on external validations and more on internal drives. What activities resonate deeply with you? What dreams have you sidelined? This is not just an exercise in fantasy, but a tool for uncovering authentic desires that guide you toward your true self. Take Ellen, for instance, a client who utilized this technique. By picturing her liberated day, she discovered that her fulfillment did not lie in her ongoing career as a sales representative. Instead, she found joy in books and intellectual discussions, leading her to dramatically shift her life's path towards a master's degree in literature. Following the Liberated Day exercise, narrow your expansive dreams into 3 primary focus goals. These should be specific areas you wish to transform, encompassing both the tangible, like planning a trip to South America, and the intangible, such as unraveling the complexities of a past relationship. To refine these goals, pose questions to stir your inner dialogue. What ignites my curiosity? Where do I see myself in 6 months? What life patterns am I eager to alter? Also, contemplate how achieving these goals may not only elevate your life, but also positively impact those around you. Prioritize these focuses, understanding that stepping beyond your comfort zones is essential. The path may be uncertain, and mistakes will happen, but each challenge is a step towards building resilience and fortitude. This preliminary phase in the courage habit emphasizes honesty with oneself and embracing the uncertainties that accompany growth. By truly understanding and acknowledging your desires, you lay the groundwork for a life defined not by fear, but by courage and authenticity. Part 3. Mastering your fear by understanding and transforming your routines. Fear often seems like an insurmountable barrier, preventing us from pursuing our heartfelt dreams. But what if we could diminish its influence over our decisions and actions? As Dr. Brené Brown, a well-known researcher on vulnerability and shame, points out, it's impossible to selectively numb emotions. However, understanding and reshaping our responses to fear through our daily habits can significantly reduce its grip. In line with Charles Duhigg's insights from The Power of Habit, our emotional responses are deeply entrenched in habit loops, which consist of 3 elements: cue, routine, and reward. The cue triggers a response, leading us into a routine that culminates in a reward, often a temporary alleviation of stress or discomfort. For example, consider the scenario of working in a crowded co-working space where witnessing other successful writers triggers a bout of self-doubt. This discomfort, cue, might prompt you to leave the space, routine, resulting in immediate though superficial relief, reward. This loop is what we refer to as a fear routine, and there are four primary types. 1. The perfectionist's fear routine revolves around control and external validation. This person is often overwhelmed by the need to meet high standards, with relief coming from completing tasks and gaining approval. 2. The saboteur shows progress but then self-sabotages. Her initial enthusiasm dissipates as she feels constrained, leading her to pull back after modest efforts, driven by an expectation of disproportionate outcomes. 3. The martyr prioritizes others' needs excessively. He convinces himself that pursuing personal dreams is selfish, as family and friends appear to depend on him. Thus, his routine sacrifices his own desires for others. 4. The pessimist feels that every attempt is doomed to failure. She avoids seeking what she wants, believing that opportunities for change are non-existent, thereby maintaining a cycle of inaction and disappointment. Many of us blend elements from these routines, but typically lean heavily on one. Recognizing and admitting to your predominant fear routine is the pivotal first step in breaking the cycle. Once identified, you can consciously interrupt these automatic processes by replacing unhelpful routines with actions that foster growth and resilience, essentially reshaping how you respond to fear. By acknowledging and reconstructing your fear routines, you are not just managing fear, you are reclaiming power over it, setting the stage for a journey towards a courageous, liberated life. This proactive engagement with your habits is foundational to adopting the courage habit and transforming fear from a hindrance into a catalyst for growth. Part 4. Embrace the physical sensations of fear to transform your response to it. Understanding your desires and reshaping habits are pivotal steps, but the journey toward cultivating courage doesn't pause there. A crucial part of this process involves tapping into your body's response to fear. This step is essential in the practice known as the courage habit, where the physical sensations associated with fear are addressed directly through mindfulness. Start by engaging in a body scan meditation. This involves a mindful progression of attention through different parts of your body, beginning at your feet and moving upward. As you focus on each area, gently inquire into its state with questions like, "What's going on here today?" or "What do you need?" This method is not just about relaxation, but about tuning into the emotional signals your body sends. During this exercise, pay close attention to any physical symptoms that might suggest the presence of fear. You might notice tension, a rapid heartbeat, or a knot in your stomach. These sensations often manifest physically before we're consciously aware of feeling fearful. For example, consider Janelle, who initially struggled with this practice. As a busy mother with a martyr's fear routine, she was initially skeptical about mindfulness. However, during her body scan, she pinpointed a persisting knot in her stomach that seemed to express her deep-seated fear of not being a good enough mother. Recognizing this was pivotal for her, as it provided a clear insight into her fear-driven behavior patterns. If a body scan isn't suitable, there are other ways to connect with your body's responses. Activities like dancing, running, yoga, or even sexual intimacy can help illuminate how fear manifests physically, providing crucial clues for addressing it. It's important to manage the intensity of these sensations, especially if they feel overwhelming. One effective strategy is to set boundaries around the experience. For instance, you might allocate a specific time frame or setting to engage with these sensations, such as setting a timer during a meditation session, taking a subsequent walk, or arranging a post-session chat with a friend. This step of accessing bodily sensations is more than a practice. It's a gateway to understanding and eventually dismantling the harmful patterns that keep us in a loop of fear. By becoming aware of and sitting with these sensations, you empower yourself to disrupt the cue routine reward cycles that dictate behavior, paving the way towards a life led by courage rather than fear. Part 5. Navigating the challenge of your inner critic without succumbing to its influence. We all have that nagging voice in our heads, the one that critiques and doubts our capabilities, often stopping us right in our tracks. This inner critic can be a major barrier to making courageous changes in our lives. Many of us try to silence this critical voice in various ways, ignoring it, appeasing it, or confronting it head on. However, these tactics generally provide only short-term relief. A more effective approach is actively engaging with your inner critic, a key step in the courage habit process. Take Taylor, for example, a determined individual who ventured into freelance photography after leaving a stable salaried job. Despite her bravery, Taylor found her progress hampered by her inner critic, which bombarded her with demeaning comparisons and criticisms. Although these seemed rational at times, they largely fueled her anxiety and self-doubt. To constructively deal with her inner critic, Taylor first needed to document precisely what it was telling her. Instead of noting vague fears of failure, she wrote down the exact hurtful statements. "You're not as good as others. Why even bother trying?" Following this, Taylor reflected on her defined goals, her primary focus. She carefully considered what her inner critic had to say about her chances of achieving these aspirations. To prevent slipping back into fear-driven responses, she incorporated body awareness practices to remain centered and clear-headed. However, understanding and rationalizing the inner critic's messages is one thing, shifting its influence is another. Here, a technique called redo please comes into play. This strategy involves directly addressing the inner critic's harsh statements by asking it to rephrase them respectfully. For instance, when the critic makes a disparaging remark, you might respond, "Redo, please. I'm listening, but I need you to express that thought respectfully." This method helped Taylor uncover that the root of her critic's fear was the potential financial insecurity, a fear deeply ingrained from her childhood experiences. By coaxing her inner critic to communicate its fears more respectfully, Taylor could engage with these concerns more constructively. Ultimately, the realization that the inner critic is a part of us, albeit a fearful and protective part, necessitates a response of compassion rather than rejection. Embracing our critical voice with understanding and kindness allows us to lessen its intimidating power, paving the way for a more courageous and self-compassionate way of living. This transformation is not just about overcoming fear, but about integrating all parts of ourselves into a harmonious whole. Part 6. Transform your reality by reframing the stories you tell yourself. Engaging in open dialogue with your inner critic uncovers a critical realization. The stories we tell ourselves profoundly influence our perception and actions. These narratives can be empowering or restrictive, shaping how we interpret and interact with the world. Embracing the practice of reframing limiting stories, highlighted as the third step in the courage habit, can catalyze significant transformations in your life. Carolyn's story exemplifies this transformation. She lived a seemingly idyllic lifestyle, leveraging her coding skills in exchange for goods, free from the typical burdens of adulthood. However, this lifestyle came with unseen shackles, such as deep debt and limited opportunities due to her inability to clear a credit check. A friend's job offer provided a potential lifeline, yet Carolyn resisted, fearing that accepting the job would equate to sacrificing her freedom and joy. This turning point led Carolyn to critically examine the stories she had been telling herself about commitment and independence. By acknowledging that her aversion to commitment stemmed from a fear of losing freedom, a characteristic of the saboteur routine, she realized these beliefs were actually holding her back rather than empowering her. The story she had constructed around commitment didn't have to dictate her happiness or her choices. It was simply one narrative of many possible ones. To start reframing your own limiting stories, identify an area in your life where you feel stagnant, particularly in relation to your primary focus goals. Begin by completing the statement, "I'm frustrated because." This prompt will help reveal the underlying narrative influencing your feelings and behaviors. Next, evaluate what your inner critic says about your progress towards your goals. Write these thoughts down verbatim. This exercise will likely unearth a limiting story you've been subconsciously endorsing, such as, "I'm not capable of changing my life." Once identified, challenge yourself to stretch this narrative towards a more encouraging and action oriented version, like, "I'm willing to look at options for change." Reframing isn't about crafting perfect, positive affirmations. Rather, it's about recognizing and empathizing with your struggles, allowing for a more nuanced understanding of your experiences. This approach prevents negative narratives from perpetuating a cycle that lacks resolution and healing. Through this process, just as Carolyn discovered, you can break free from self sabotage and embrace new opportunities that align more closely with your aspirations and values. By rewriting the limiting stories you tell yourself, you create space for possibilities and personal growth that were previously obscured by unchallenged fears and assumptions. Part 7. Building a courageous life with the support of like-minded individuals. Even after committing to self-awareness and adapting courageous behaviors, the grip of fear routines can linger. This is why the culmination of the courage habit involves establishing connections within a supportive community. Enveloping yourself in a network of individuals who appreciate and strive for bravery can significantly reinforce your habit changes. A 1994 Harvard University study highlighted the integral role of social support in forming and maintaining positive habits. But how does one begin forging such connections? First, evaluate your existing relationships. Among your acquaintances, identify those who are similarly committed to a courageous way of living. Consider the dynamics of these relationships, focusing on those who prioritize vulnerability, problem solving, empathy, and compassion over mere appearances and criticism. Select someone from this group, a practice person, to cultivate a deeper, courage based relationship with. Engage with them through actions of vulnerability. Share your challenges and achievements without glossing over the difficulties. This doesn't mean that every relationship must transition into one centered on your courageous journey. However, integrating this kind of authenticity into even a few key relationships can significantly bolster your resilience and commitment. Relationship dynamics can be complex, and not everyone will support or understand your pursuit of a courage-driven life. When facing criticism or misunderstanding, remember the other steps of the courage. Her habits, acknowledge your physical responses to stress, listen attentively to your inner critic, but manage its influence, and actively reframe limiting narratives. If your attempts at deepening connections through vulnerability are met with resistance or negativity, communicate how their reactions make you feel and clearly state your needs. Should this approach fail to evoke a supportive response, it may be necessary to establish boundaries and continue seeking others who share your commitment to living courageously. Venturing into new relationships or transforming existing ones can be daunting, especially if social anxieties play a role. If you find yourself hesitating, apply the courage habit techniques. For instance, when self-doubt arises, mentally request a redo, please, to rethink the situation more positively and assertively. It's also beneficial to initiate reaching out behaviors yourself. A simple way to do this is by inviting others to share aspects of their lives and genuinely listening to them. This reciprocity can lay the groundwork for mutual support and deeper connections. The journey towards a courageous life involves persistent effort and adaptation. It's more than just occasional acts of bravery. It's a comprehensive approach to living that continuously challenges and expands your boundaries. While integrating the courage habit into all facets of life, from activism to personal relationships, takes time and commitment, the fulfillment derived from living authentically and boldly is immeasurable, making every step of the process worthwhile. Final summary. The essence of practicing courage is rooted in a profound confrontation and understanding of personal fears. This journey starts by dissecting and altering the habitual patterns of cue routine reward cycles that govern our responses to fear. Key to this transformation is identifying how fear feels and sounds within us, enabling us to directly engage with these unsettling sensations and critical inner voices. Central to moving past these hurdles is the practice of documenting and subsequently reshaping the limiting narratives, the stories we tell ourselves about our capabilities and prospects. Recognizing these stories allows us to rewrite them, fostering a mindset that supports growth and resilience rather than constraint and resignation. An equally vital aspect of cultivating a courageous life is the cultivation of a supportive network, or a courageous community. This community consists of individuals who not only strive towards similar ideals of bravery, but also endorse and practice vulnerability, empathy, problem solving, and unconditional support. These connections reinforce our own efforts, creating a feedback loop of encouragement and accountability that propels us further along our path of courage. Together, these strategies form a robust framework for anyone seeking to live a more courage driven life, underscored by self awareness, transformative habits, and mutual support. Thank you for joining me today on this journey of learning and discovery as we explored the insights of another thought provoking book in our growing library of knowledge. If you've enjoyed our time together, please take a moment to follow our podcast, give us a 5-star rating, and share 20-minute books with other knowledge seekers. Your support truly means a lot. Don't forget to join me again in the next episode, where we will delve into another enriching book. Until then, happy reading and happy listening.